Hello friends, welcome back. In this lecture we are going to discuss about the details that are required for the design of a railway track. In the previous lecture we had covered some basic topics like horizontal curve, setting out of horizontal curve, the necessity of providing super elevation, what do you mean by super elevation and all. In this lecture we will be covering some basic terms that are required for the design of a track. So let's move. Gradients. Any departure of the track from the level can be called as grade or gradient. A gradient or grade can be an up or a rising gradient or down or falling gradient. The gradient can be measured either by the extent of rise or fall in 100 units horizontal distance, or the horizontal distance travelled for a rise or fall in 1 unit. Gradients are provided on the tracks for the following reasons: to reduce the cost of earthwork, to reach various stations at different elevations, and to follow natural contour of the ground. Various gradients are used on railway tracks and that can be classified under the following heads: rolling gradient, pusher or helper gradient, momentum gradient, gradient in station yards. First one, rolling gradient. The rolling gradient on a section may be defined as the gradient which determines the maximum load that the engine can haul on the section. In other words, it is the maximum gradient allowed on the track section. It is remarkable that steep gradients necessitate more powerful locomotives, smaller train loads, lower speed and costly haulage. It is therefore desirable to climb a slope at as a gentle rate as possible. As a rule, rising gradients must be followed by falling gradients. With this, the amount of energy which was used up in climbing is saved in descending. A train is able to climb a rising gradient more easily if this rising gradient follows a falling gradient, as the train has an opportunity of attaining high speed over the falling gradient before reaching the rising gradient. In determining the rolling gradient of the section, it will not only be the severity of gradient that will come into play, but also the length of gradients and its position, such as other grades on the track. We can look at the values that are provided for plain tracks or the tracks provided in the hilly regions. The gradient may be in between 1 in 150 to 1 in 200. For hilly areas, the rolling gradient will be in between 1 in 100 to 1 in 150. The second type of gradient is the momentum gradient. Those gradients on a section which, though more severe than the rolling gradient, do not determine the maximum load of the train, but on account of their favorable position on track, the train, before approaching them, acquire sufficient momentum to negotiate them, are known as momentum gradients. For example, in valleys, a falling gradient is usually followed by a rising gradient. A train, while coming down a falling gradient, acquires sufficient momentum. This will be a falling gradient and this will be a rising gradient. When a train moves through this falling gradient, it will acquire the sufficient momentum to climb up this rising gradient. So this acquired momentum gives additional kinetic energy to the moving train, which would enable the train to overcome a steeper rising gradient than the rolling gradient for a certain length of the track. This rising gradient is called momentum gradient, and in such cases a steeper grade than the rolling gradient can be adopted. The one main thing that should be remembered while providing this momentum gradient is signal should not be provided at these gradients. That is, a necessary qualification for a momentum grade is that the train should not be stopped in the territory where it acquires the sufficient momentum to negotiate it. Due to this qualification, the obstacles like signals should not be provided at the momentum gradients. By an introduction of a halt at a critical point on momentum grade, the grade may be converted into a rolling gradient. You can click these links and you can see the trains moving through these momentum gradients at various locations of India. The next type of gradient is pusher or helper gradient. The important effect of a rolling gradient is its limit on locomotive capacity. If the rolling gradient is severe, it may mean that during larger portion of its journey, the locomotive would have its unused capacity for carrying higher loads. But if the grade is concentrated in a specific section, such as hilly terrains, instead of limiting the train load, it may be operationally easy or even be economical to run the train on the basis of load that the engine can carry on the remaining portion of the track and arrange for an assisting engine for the portion where the gradient is severe. Such gradients are known as pusher or helper gradients. Pusher gradients are very important in mountain terrain, where steeper gradients are necessary to reduce the length of the track. In such cases, one locomotive being incapable, extra engine are provided. Before deciding the pusher gradients, the capacity of the engine and the maximum load should be compared and optimum conditions should be attained so that no carrying capacity is wasted. The next type of gradient is the gradients provided in the station yards. The gradients at the station yards have to be sufficiently low due to the following reasons. To prevent the movement of standing vehicles on the track due to the effect of gravity combined with a strong wind or a gentle push. To prevent the additional resistance due to the grade on the starting vehicles, which is about twice at the start than vehicle in motion. However, a certain minimum gradient is required to be provided for drainage. On Indian Railways, for all gauges, the maximum grade provided or permitted in the station yards is 1 in 400. 1 in 400, while a minimum gradient is 1 in 1000. So the minimum gradient provided is 1 in 1000 and the maximum gradient provided is 1 in 400. And these gradients are recommended from the drainage point of view. Next we will discuss about the speed of track, the safe speed or the permitted speed on the track. The speed of the track mainly depends on the strength of the track and the power of the locomotive. Increased speed increases the capacity of the track and provides service to the customer of the railways. The safe speed on the curves can be determined using Martin's equations or the empirical equations. The equations are as follows. For broad gauge and meter gauge, velocity v is equal to 4.35 in the root of r minus 67. That is 4.4 into root r minus 70. That's approximately we converted that value to 4.4 and 70. For narrow gauge, velocity v is equal to 3.6 into root of r minus 6.1. While v is the speed in kilometer per hour and r is the radius of curve in meter. The maximum speed per meter is 50 km per hour. So you can calculate the maximum safe speed on a curve using this Martin's equations, or it is otherwise known as empirical formulas for the safe speed of train through a curve. We already discussed about this topic, super elevation or cam. but we have to focus more on this topic while designing a railway track, especially a curve. The super elevation or cant. When a train moves on a curve, it is subjected to centrifugal force acting horizontal at the center of gravity of each vehicle radially outwards from the center of the curve. This increases the weight of outer rail. To counteract this effect, the level of outer rail is raised above the inner rail by a certain amount to introduce the centripetal force. This raise in elevation of the outer rail with respect to the inner rail at the horizontal curves is known as super elevation. So you can calculate the super elevation using the equation E is equal to gv square by gr, gv square by gr, where small g is the gravity or acceleration due to gravity and r is the radius and v is the velocity, and you can and capital G is the gauge of the railway track. So you can calculate the cant or super elevation using this equation. E is equal to gv square by gr. The university may ask some problems from this section, and so you have to by heart this equation very well, and you will be provided with the velocity value, the gauge width, the acceleration due to gravity value and the radius of the curve. Then you can easily calculate the cant or super elevation using the equation E equal to gv square divided by g into r. And next we have to discuss about another important topic called equilibrium cant. Equilibrium cant. What is an equilibrium cant? What do you mean by an equilibrium cant? For a fixed amount of cant, the speed that creates balance is called equilibrium speed. For a constant speed of a running train, the amount of required super elevation to achieve the balance is called equilibrium cant. The equilibrium cant can be calculated using this empirical equation E equal to gv square by 127r. So university may ask some problems regarding this equation using this equation calculating the equilibrium cant of a track. You can calculate that by using this equation E equal to gv square by 127r. And the next topic is equilibrium speed. The equilibrium speed is the average speed under an average condition of level tracks. Or the equilibrium speed is the speed at which the effect of centrifugal force is completely balanced by the super elevation provided. When the maximum speed of the rail section on broad gauge or meter gauge track is greater than 50 km per hour, then the average speed can be calculated using the equation average speed, or the relationship between the maximum speed and the average speed will be equal to 3/4 of maximum speed, and the same speed of the curve will be equal to 4.35 root of r minus 67. And if the maximum velocity is less than or equal to 50 km per hour, then the equilibrium speed will be the maximum speed. Sometimes it is necessary to calculate weighted average of speeds. In actual practice, trains with different speeds run on curved sections with super elevations. Therefore, super elevation for which the section is designed should be able to accommodate variations of speed. For this purpose, weighted average speed of the given section is accessed, and it is given in this tabular column using some random values. If the number of trains passing through the curve is 5, then the speeds in kilometer is 60 km per hour, and the number raised to 10, and the speed raised to 80 km per hour, and 2 trains with speed 100 km per hour, and then three trains passing through that curve with 50 km per hour, and a total of 20 trains is passing through that track in different times with different velocities. Then the weighted average can be calculated, and that weighted average will be the equilibrium speed. So you have to remember this concept of equilibrium speed with weighted average. And the maximum value of super elevations provided for different speeds in Indian Railways are as follows. And depending on the gauges, for the broad gauge under ordinary conditions, if the speed is below 100 km per hour, then the super elevation is 140 mm. Under special situations with prior permission, the super elevations will be 165 mm. For meter gauge, under ordinary conditions, and the train is moving below 100 km per hour, then the super elevation is 90 mm. And under special situations, it is 100 mm. For narrow gauge, under normal conditions 65 mm, and under special conditions it is 75 mm. And if the speed is more than 100 km per hour, it is again classified into three categories: 120 km per hour, 160 km per hour, and 200 km per hour. And it may vary accordingly. And for broad gauge, it is specified, the super elevation values are specified according as per the instructions from the Indian Railways. But for meter gauge and narrow gauge, as the speed varies, super elevation values are not specified. Next, we can move to another topic called cant deficiency or super elevation deficiency. The equilibrium cant is provided on the basis of equilibrium speed or average speed. But this equilibrium cant or super elevation falls short of that required for the high speed trains. This shortage of super elevation is called cant deficiency. In other words, cant deficiency is the difference between the equilibrium cant necessary for the maximum permissible speed on a curve and the actual cant provided. This cant deficiency is limited due to two reasons. The first one, higher the cant deficiency gives rise to higher discomfort to passengers. And the second one, higher cant deficiency means higher would be the balancing centrifugal forces and hence extra pressure and lateral forces on outer rails. This will require strong track and fastening for stability. And the cant deficiency values are as follows, and it can be categorized into two categories: cant deficiency for speed up to 100 km per hour and the speed is higher than 100 km per hour. For broad gauge, it's 76 mm if the speed is under 100 km per hour, and the speed is greater than 100 km per hour, it is 10 cm. For meter gauge, it's 5.1 if the speed of the train is under 100 km per hour, and if the speed is greater than 100 km per hour, the cant deficiency is not specified. For the narrow gauge, it's 3.8 cm or 38 mm if the train moves under a speed of 100 km per hour, and it's not specified in the cases of high speed trains. Next is a super interesting topic: negative super elevation. What is a negative super elevation? You can see a picture here. There are two curves. One curve is emerging from the main track. Here you can see a main track and a branch track. Here a branch track is emerging from the point A and B from the main track, and it is moving to another direction. So there are two curves. So here there will occur a super elevation called a negative super elevation. When the main line is on a curve and has a turnout of contrary flexure leading to a branch line, the super elevation necessary for the average speeds of trains running over the main line cannot be provided. You can see in this figure, and AC is the outer rail. AC is the outer rail, and it will be higher than the inner rail BD. Or in other words, A should be higher than point B. Here the elevations of A and B are different. A will be higher and B will be in the lower position. For the branch line, however, BF curve should be higher than AE curve. BF curve, this curve should be higher than this curve, EA curve. Or the point B should be higher than point A. These two contrary conditions cannot be met at the same time within one layout. So instead of outer rail BF on the branch, instead of outer rail BF on the branch line being higher, it is kept lower than the inner rail A. In such cases, the branch line curve has a negative superelevation, and therefore speeds on both tracks must be restricted, particularly on the branch line. So this is a case of superelevation. Negative superelevation. There are two contrary conditions, so we have to meet both in the same layout. So we provide a negative superelevation. So that's all with this lecture. In the next lecture, we will cover some problems that may appear in the question papers from the topics cant, negative cant, then the safe speed on the tracks, setting out of curves, transition curves, etc. See you all there. Stay safe. Stay home. Bye.